Yo, yo, yo. What is up, guys? Jacobshadowminer here. Live again with episode 5 of Voice Chat Vibes. As you can tell, I'm by myself tonight again. Everybody's busy. Friend Raw is going to go on vacation. Alex has got his own thing. And Jame, don't know what the fuck is going on, but whatever. But if you hear that, I'm just joking, man. But one thing I've been out of the loop on, because you can kind of tell, we missed episode 5 last week. Didn't really get to do it because I put out an announcement, that I'm kind of took a little bit of a break there from content creating. Because I had to. I had to get, there's still some things I got to work out. Like moving's never easy, especially moving states. um, Moving states is complicated because you got to work on things like changing your ID. Just got a chat I gotta take care of here, I guess. Maybe I don't know. World's going crazy right now. But like changing your ID, changing your mailing address, all that fun stuff. And so let me tell you about my world before we go ahead and get into the Minecraft visuals. So my world, post move, it's like the equivalence of the nukes dropping in Fallout 4. You have the fallout, my fallout is again trying to get my ID changed. Stuff like what else is there? There's so much going on. Oh yeah, mailing address, like I said. Yeah, still got things, I'm actually actively getting mailed here, like my proper lighting equipment, um, little knickknacks like my amiibos, all the fun stuff. I still got clothes. if I, if you guys seen how much clothes I have, and I'm too embarrassed to show that. One day, if I get a crazy amount of like subscribers, like I don't know, say like 50, maybe even 100, here or even YouTube, either one, I will show. I got bags, man. I got bags, dude. Um, but there's that, and then there's the not gonna lie, I don't make a living off streaming, so it's kind of been hard, finding a job in Minnesota. It's been a little bit difficult. I'm not gonna lie, and having to shift my focus away from this, and it hurts my soul that I was on a good run, I was on a good streak, and here we are again. But I kind of have to focus on those things because then I can't focus on this, but I can't focus on those things. So it's just life, that's how it is. And, been really busy. Again, it's life, it's how it is. So that's my world. And, as you tell everybody else, it's not just me, Alex and Rogel's getting ready to go on vacation. And, everyone's busy. So it's just spreading around, man. It's a bug. But today we're going to be talking about Minecraft Minecraft vibrant visuals, to be specific. So Minecraft has decided to drop a bomb, not literally YouTube, not literally Twitch, but they decided to drop a bombshell right when I was moving. Apparently they dropped it. The month, I think it might even be the month before. I think. The month of or the month before, they decided to do Minecraft Live and literally dropped the whole Minecraft Vibrant visuals. So apparently I missed a whole Minecraft Live. Well, I already knew about the Happy Gas, so I think that was a part of that live. But I did not know about Vibrant visuals until literally like a week ago. So yo, nifty little name. What up? What up? What up? What up? Just talking about Minecraft's vibrant visuals. But yeah, welcome in. Hope you have a good night. Just doing my little podcast thing here. But it's crazy. Like I did not know anything is going on in the world right now, and it's like Wow. So Minecraft's finally dropping shaders. Let me tell you guys. Let me tell you guys. So what this is? Let's see. When did the PlayStation 5 drop and Xbox Series X? I think it was like around 2021, 2020. Around that ballpark. About three. We'll call that. We'll call it that. About 3-4 years later, we're finally getting the shader, like the Bedrock shaders that we were promised that would ship with the PlayStation 5 and of course the Xbox Series X. Of course, it never happened when those, those consoles launched and those games launched. But here we are now. I guess you could say later is better than never. And I guess I see why to a point. A lot of you guys know I like to play good cop, bad cop. And we're gonna be good cop here for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of see why. Because you have a lot of shaders. Shaders is art, shaders, graphics is to the eye of the beholder, and every single shader pack is different. Everybody has their preferences when it comes to Java Edition. Everybody prefers shaders to look a certain way. So that means you have all these millions and millions and billions of different variants of shader packs out there that have different looks, different configurations, and Mojang had to pick one that, like Jeb said in the Mine, I almost said Mojang Live, the Minecraft Live. Let's see, got a chat here. I think the actual PS5 and Xbox Series version was released in 2024, armored. Until then, it was PS4 and X. I think so. Yeah, like the actual, yeah, like the actual native versions. But basically, when those consoles dropped, we just got like a ported over version of like Bedrock, like a straight up like Pocket Edition for a little bit there. But it that makes sense too. It's like Mojang's got a lot going on. They have a lot of cool updates during that time. But also, like I've been saying, it's like Minecraft is a very unique game, and Jeb is very much trying to keep the game, even though they updated a lot. Oh, this video's not been playing this whole time. It's crazy. Welcome to a voice chat vibe, guys, where everything screws up every now and then. But Jeb is trying to keep this game, even though the game's in through so many updates, has a book that says we have to keep the game at core values, and one of those core values is keeping the game vanilla, keeping the game default, that sort of thing. And it's kind of hard when you want to keep a game alive, you want to add on all these different kinds of updates here and there, quality of life stuff. It's a hard balance, to keep Minecraft at its core value, and then trying to think of the future, think beyond Minecraft, that sort of stuff. And I think, based on, like the trailer I seen, and, finally being able to freaking deep dive into it like 2 days ago since I've been so like busy and crap. I think they did a good job of that. I think they did a perfect job at keeping, the original look, not really original, since they did the refresh graphics, but the original look. They did a perfect job at lighting, in my opinion. It's not too bad. It's not too good either. It's just that soft spot, and I think that's what they were trying to figure out. They weren't trying to go crazy, because then again, back to another, back to the last episode, back to like the last voice chat. You have to think optimization, because we understand this is going to be on Pocket Edition. This is going to be on PS5. It's going to be on Xbox Series X and S. And why aren't you repeating? Like I said, man, this is not a voice chat vibe about the jank, man. Anyways, so my brain. What was I talking about? um, versions, right, right. And then you want to have PC, and that comes with many other different configurations. So, you got to think optimization. You have to think, how can we optimize this shader pack to run across several thousand different variants? And it's hard. It's really hard. And I think, in my opinion, the way it looks at least, I think Mojang did a good job. I mean, you're turning on ray tracing at the end of the day. You're not cranking no 144 hertz plus, but if you can smooth out, in my opinion, a consistent 60 FPS, it's fine. Okay, there's some games I'm literally about to be murdered for this opinion, but some games, in my opinion, actually should just stick to 60 FPS. Like there's some games that do not need 100 and 144 FPS, in my opinion. And like games like Skyrim, games like GTA 6 coming out, even GTA 5 to a degree, games with like cinematic, you know, you're living in these worlds. It's another world to you. Does not need no 144 hertz. I'm telling you that right now. Like there's no point. Like you're not in a competitive match, unless you're like up against a troll or something in Skyrim, or freaking the Warden, and maybe then you might Minecraft, definitely need 144 hertz for something, like building, but like all the other games, like cinematic things and all that, you really don't need it. And if you're running, shaders on Minecraft, there's a slight chance you're just playing casually. Like even then, like if you're playing competitively, it's like why? Like why? Because like you're going to expect 60 FPS. Because I mean, again, at the end of the day, Mojang's trying to keep this game optimized, and this thing's running across several million different platforms. So it's Mojang's basically got to do what they got to do, and that brings up a very interesting thing. It's not even just Minecraft. Video games in general have been raising their excuse me. Video games in general have been raising their stakes when it comes to graphics design, stuff like that. You look back to Nintendo 64 days, like just when 3D gaming is starting to take foot. Yeah, you had some lighting. It wasn't like the lighting you see now. It wasn't like directional lighting. It wasn't laser focused lighting. It wasn't ray tracing. It was source lighting. You know, Technically, I think that's how Source got its name for games like Portal and crap, because of source lighting. But because I'll tell you something about that here in a second. But you just had basic source light, but it wasn't good lighting. It was just lighting. You had a sun, and you had a sun source. It was uneven. Like the complaint we all have about source lighting. However, speaking of Source and Source Engine and Valve and Portal, Valve did a very good job when it came to utilizing source lighting. Very good job, actually. A lot of the complaints you can have when it comes to uneven lighting and stuff like that is uneven shadows, stuff like that. But the way Valve implemented it into their games, yes, it's a typical Valve game. Portal 2, Half-Life 2, even Half-Life Alyx to a degree. Yes, it's a Valve game. You're going to have shitty textures. You're going to have errors. Yeah, that's the charm. But it was also good too at some points. And those good moments, they're amazing. And that's because, Valve took their older games, their older Nintendo 64, PS2 looking games, and they just utilized source lighting in key areas. And like if you were to take Portal 2 and Half-Life 2, and you were to remove every single bit of source lighting that Valve has implemented, it would look just like Half-Life 1. It would look just like Portal 1. It would look just like those PS2 looking graphics, because not everywhere, but like in some parts, because like I said, Valve utilized the heck out of source lighting and source shading. And that's something I can appreciate for, for a good Valve game. It's like everything just looked nice. They did a good job utilizing the lighting they had. And even Nintendo, right? Like games like Breath of the Wild started coming out. Games like Mario Odyssey, stuff like that. They started. It's not ray tracing. Of course, the original Nintendo Switch can't run ray tracing. I don't even think the Nintendo Switch 2 can run ray tracing. But they utilized lighting again in such a unique way. Like, if lighting, like source lighting, like the basic video game lighting we're all used to, is utilized in a certain way, it can make a game look really amazing. You've got Valve games where it's uneven, that's the charm, but then you have Nintendo that utilizes it extremely well, and then you have Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario, the list can go on and on and on. But it's just crazy how we've evolved when it comes to graphics. You've got PS2, Nintendo 64, then you got Nintendo Switch, and the 1660 Super days, and then now we're here. We have ray tracing. We have lots of different, graphics. I think have hit a ceiling, honestly. We all know that. But it's just amazing how great graphics are these days. Honestly, too good that I think we're going to need to make graphics cards with HVAC systems, and that shit's got to stay outside. Honestly, that's where it seems like we're heading. But and you see this on YouTube, you see us on TikTok all the time. Ray tracing is not a new technology. Ray tracing's been around since technically the thousands, probably around the 90s. Technically, it was just used differently. The same story you hear all over and over and over again. Pixar was the one that used ray tracing a lot, but because the amount of power and because the amount of performance that needed to go into making those Pixar films, it required a lot of computers. And trust me, I don't think a gamer, even as dedicated as you can be, is going to want a freaking server room to run Minecraft shaders or freaking security breach on ray tracing, or the list can go on. But it's crazy, Pixar, that was ray tracing. Basically, I mean, we all know this, but if you don't still know what ray tracing is an evolution of source lighting. Instead of light being emitted from one source, light is actually, you have to think of your screen as a camera. So your monitor, your TV, your phone, whatever you play video games on, Switch, whatever. Well, can't say Switch. Steam Deck, something. You have to think of that as a camera, right? That's your point of view. Now, if you're playing third person, it's still a camera at the end of the day. It's just third person. And then you have to imagine a million little lasers shooting outwards from not at your face, not literally, but inward, out into the video game. And that lighting is hitting all these different objects, bouncing off, and then recreating that more natural lighting that we're used to in real life. It's a process. That's why we have ray tracing cards, because it's a process. And it takes a heck of a lot longer to render than, say, just your generic textures and generic source lighting. Because, again, that's a million sometimes trillions, depending on how advanced the ray tracing is. Lasers being shot out and redirected back to the screen and showing you what you're looking at. And that is why, a lot of games are capped at 60 FPS when it comes to ray tracing. You're lucky if you get like a 5090 and an i9, and you can at least run for 144 or 120. It high settings. I don't know. I don't have those cards. I don't know. But it's just so wild to me how advanced graphics have gotten. And, Minecraft, for what it is, like Minecraft for what it is, it's a block game. It's a pixelated sandbox block game. That's a tongue twister. It's a pixelated sandbox block game that has not evolved past its look unless you get like a really good shader pack on Java or like a really good resource pack. The basic game has mainly remained the same. Yes, it got a graphics upgrade technically, but that was just changing a few pixels to make it look a little fresher, not like Nintendo 64-ish and remnants of PS2 days and all that. Or even worse, like NES. But it's nice to see that, Minecraft in a lot of ways is like Nintendo. It's like they're always a step behind, but that's a good thing, because that's the charm, that's the magic. Minecraft has always been known for its blocky, pixelated textures, and now we get blocky, pixelated textures with ray tracing, which ray tracing's been around for a while, but Minecraft is a little bit behind, so we can't really be mad at Mojang, and we can't be mad at Minecraft, and we have it at the end of the day, even though the PlayStation 6 is just around the corner, Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out, and who knows what Microsoft is cooking up. But, and we all know I can't say for sure if Minecraft is going to be doing the vibrant visuals on Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2. I know it's supposed to be across a lot of platforms. If they can pull it off, the Nintendo Switch 2 has a lot of good power. So if they can pull it off, great. Which actually, I just realized something. Now that I think about it, maybe the reason Mojang has waited. I just had an iPod. Could you imagine Mojang's waited this entire time to release vibrant visuals because they were waiting on the Nintendo Switch 2 to drop? That would be so wild. It would make sense, because they'd want to, of course, have something that's actually powerful. Because like the way Mojang seems to be doing things, they want to run it across every platform. Because like when it comes to Bedrock Edition, they want consistency. So it makes sense. It makes sense to me. It's like, of course, it makes sense why Mojang would just wait it out and all that good stuff. But it's just amazing. It's just crazy to me how far video games, video game graphics is coming these days. And like I said, I think we're at a ceiling. Really think we're at a ceiling. I don't think we can go any higher. Highest we can go is real life, and at that point, what's the point in playing a video game if you're playing real life and you just go outside and touch some grass? But it's just wild. Excuse me. Wild that we got graphics that are coming out like this, and can't wait to see where they go. Speaking of where they go, we have had This is not on topic. This is off topic. This is just me like talking to my ass right now. But it technically is breaking news. Apparently not a lot of people are talking about it. X, formerly Twitter, has went down today. I not one to admit how much time I spend on that platform, because that's became my daily morning ritual. Found out when I was getting ready to post one of my random Twitter thoughts that it was down. I was actually I was getting ready to post one of my thoughts, and I was actually literally getting ready to check the news, because that's one of the main ways I get my news, other than like TechLink and like Google News and all that, and Dylan Page now. It's so addicting, but it is wild how I literally, because I've not checked my news for today. It was like 2 o'clock. I woke up around like 1. Had a lot going on today. I'm like, okay, I need to see what's going on in the world right now. Hit me with the news, man. And the second I try to load it, it's like, oh. Cause, usually 90% of the time, it's my Wi-Fi, so I turn my Wi-Fi off and turn it back on again, I'm fine. Nope. I wasn't going crazy. It wasn't my Wi-Fi. Try to load the actual homepage, nothing. Nothing even loads. It's like, okay, here we go. X is probably down. And, I go to Instagram, I go to Threads. Apparently nobody's even talking about it. So it's like, oh, okay, so it's down. But, somebody was able to get out the fact that it was down. Technically, yeah. Well, vibrant visuals is technically the ray tracing. But, anyways, so, like, X went down, and, like, some people were able to get their posts out, like, so like, okay, so I know it's, like, a thing now. It was down for, like, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, I don't even know. I was just scrolling TikTok, working on my video for today, and getting the podcast out, and clipping up things for the week and all that. So, I tried to keep up with that. Like, it just came back up, and maybe, like, 1 or 2, maybe 3 people were talking about it. Did not heard anything about it all day. Literally come back. I see something on TikTok, Daily Mail, Dylan Page's rival, that there was a cyber attack, apparently, and that's not big news. I don't know. A lot of crazy things going on in the world. Since the last podcast episode, we've had literally Jack Sparrow driving into the freaking Brooklyn Bridge, and so many things going on. So it's hard to even keep up. I don't like to cover stuff like that, because when I see stuff like that, it brings me down. And I'm the kind of person right now, especially with the move, I don't want to be put in a position to be bringing myself down, because it just drains me. It just makes me lack motivation. When it comes to content creating and like doing stuff and just making the stuff, I need the motivation to do it. and seeing things like Brooklyn Bridge, this, and it's like, no. And that's why I don't talk about things like that on this podcast, because like my goal is to uplift you guys, like of course, inform you guys like what's going on in the world, get a little banter here and there, but at the end of the day, it's like entertain you guys, like let you guys feel like you're a part of just a voice chat, just hanging out with some friends, talking about shit, that sort of stuff. And man, this podcast has really adapted that. It's kind of took it a little bit to get into that in that little groove there, but like it's finally hit that niche. Now I go live late at night, put the episode out next day. It's almost like that Adult Swim kind of vibe, kind of thing, and that's what I was going for. So I did it. I'm officially, it is now episode 5. We're not really on track, but like we found a rhythm, we found our thing. Podcast is what it is, and yeah, we're here. So it's really crazy actually to see how far this podcast is coming, and I can't wait to see how far it'll go. Of course I got my YouTube channel, and I've got a lot of other different projects to work on too, some coming up very soon. But it's crazy. This podcast was just an outlet that, I just wanted to give myself. Like, I'm always holding myself to high standards. Sometimes I can hold myself to a little bit too high of a standard. And this podcast, now that I think about it, now that we, and why I have it, why I just don't even care about like issue, like the background not playing, and like the little mess ups here and there, and I'm late, the reason I don't care about it because that's the charm, that's what that's honestly what I want this podcast to be, just come in, hang out, it gives you a place to just come and relax and be like, oh yeah, what up, that sort of stuff. But for me, it just honestly gives me the option to just make something without overthinking it too much, and just make something without it having to be overly perfect all the time. Because trust me, a lot of my projects have to be perfect for other projects to work. And that's a whole world on its own. So just to be able to sit down and just talk into a microphone and make a podcast, sometimes have some people in NBC, it's not give a crap. It's nice for once. It just gives me a place to roll. This is my escape. Other than video games, this is like my secondary escape to just hang out, and all that good stuff. So I would say that's an episode. I think a lot of us got to hang out, and thank you, Nifty, for coming in the stream and hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the live version of the podcast. It's fun. We do these every Thursday, and if you guys want to tune in next Thursday, we might have Alex on. Definitely might not have any guest appearances because I think they're going to be on vacation still. And we might have the amazing Jame on. If they're not busy or whatever. But you never know who can be on. Has to be the voice chat vibes. If you guys would like to follow up with any next episodes, any videos I got going on, here's my socials and chats. And you guys watching on YouTube and Hangouts and with Discord and all that other stuff in the description below. And you guys watching on Spotify, or listening on Spotify, just look up Jacobshadowminer on TikTok, Twitch, literally anything, and you'll find me. Anyways, guys, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been an amazing podcast. Again, I got to hang out, and I can't really say we're back, because I still got a lot of stuff going on. But we're something. So, anyways, guys, as always, I shall see you guys in the next one. And never forget to keep shining. Bye, guys.